Let's talk Mousa Dembele. Now, the former Spurs midfielder, Belgian international, he's been retired for a few years now, as far as I know. I saw my baller league the other day. Took a picture of him, really blessed dude. But yeah, his name has just completely jumped back into relevancy. Twitter is talking about him, TikTok is everyone is talking about Mousa Dembele all of a sudden. And it really comes from the fact that over the last few weeks and months, and to be honest with you, seasons, but really over the last few weeks and months, there's been podcasts and interviews where Premier League footballers and ex-footballers come out and state that Mousa Dembele was one of, if not the straight up best player they either played with or played against, which is crazy praise to say about a player like Dembele. And in turn, people have kind of taken it two ways. Some people have come out and said, yeah, Dembele, he was so good. Like, this guy was better than this guy, and this guy, he's one of the best midfielders in Premier League history. And then the flip side has also happened because you know in life it works in two extremes, right? And the other extreme has come out and basically stated Dembele is so overrated. The guy wasn't even in the top 10 most important Spurs players. He's all aesthetics. Like, what does he have against these players? Is he blackmailing them or something like that? So I thought today we can talk about Dembele a little bit, and more so than just Dembele. I think the more interesting conversation is really, why do footballers think players like Dembele, why do they view them so highly? Why do they regard them so highly? So in this video, we're going to talk about that, right? But if I give my quick opinion on Mousa Dembele, I think Mousa Dembele was a very, very talented player. In terms of when you just look at attributes, let's not talk about what their career ended up being, how consistent he was, what he accomplished. Forget about all that. Let's just talk about him as a player. He's very, very talented because Mousa Dembele was tall. He was very, very strong. He was very, very agile, and he was incredibly good in tight spaces. So good of a dribbler, especially in central areas, which, as we know, right, dribbling in central areas is very, very difficult because of how congested the pitch was. So for his size and really his height, he was an incredibly gifted footballer. So that is something with Mousa Dembele I don't think anyone can really disagree with. Anybody who watched Dembele can agree with my analysis there, right? I'm not saying anything crazy. And was Mousa Dembele rated very highly when he was playing? Maybe not as much as he kind of is being right now by some people, but I think everybody saw Mousa Dembele as a good midfielder, a good Premier League midfielder. Like, he wasn't a scrub. He wasn't a decent player. He was a very talented player that at times could put together some amazing performances. And he did. I mean, in that period where Spurs kind of went 2 seasons in a row, kind of challenging for the league, if you want, 15-16, they fell short, finished third, but 16-17 as well, too, when they lost to Chelsea to the league. Dembele was a big player in that team. Like, he was one of the main midfielders in that rotation of Wanyama, himself, Dele Alli, obviously in front of him, Eriksson. He was a player in that team. I'm not going to say he was the most important, the best player in that team, but he was a key player in that side. So anybody really trying to pretend now that Mousa Dembele was average, I think that's kind of rewriting history. And in fact, I remember there was a rumor when he was at Fulham. I don't know how much actual stock there is in this, but I remember reading it at the time because my dad told me about it. And I'm sure if I look it up right now, Real Madrid wanted Mousa Dembele, or at least there were links to Real Madrid when Mousa Dembele was playing at Fulham. I mean, ignore all the Jurassic World commercials, right? But yeah, 2012, August 1st, 2012, he's the real deal. Madrid show interest in Fulham's Dembele. Real Madrid are understood to be the latest big club to show an interest in signing Fulham attacking midfielder Mousa Dembele, who's entering the final year. Both Spurs and Man United have previously shown interest in Dembele. Again, right, it's just rumors, of course, but I remember this rumor at the time, like, floating around, and it kind of just speaks to, again, the fact that whether you think he had an amazing career or not, or whether you think he's the best midfielder in Premier history or not, which I don't, he was very, very talented. But that's kind of besides the point. Why do footballers view Dembele so highly? That's really what's important here. So as someone who's lucky enough to work in this industry, I rub shoulders with footballers a lot. And that's not me bragging about like, oh, we go party or whatever. No, it's like I work in the same kind of space as a lot of them. Either whether that's me interviewing them or, for an example, the last 2 weeks, I've been going to the Zone every single week to do my show with James and Julian Laurent. And in that space, the show right before us is a show where John Obi Mikel is on, Callum Wilson is on. We've had Edgar Davids was on yesterday at the time of recording, Gael Clichy, Christian Vieri. There's been plenty of footballers. And just in general, right, because of the nature of my job, I meet and speak to a lot of footballers. It's not me trying to flex that here, but that's the reality. And through my experiences with speaking with players and also hearing the way they kind of speak on these kinds of podcasts, it's very evident to me that the way footballers talk about other footballers and view the game is very different to the way fans, and in particular, modern day fans, digest the game. I think they operate or they think on two completely different wavelengths. And that's not to say that they're right or that football fans are right, but it's very clear to me that they view the game through a different lens. It's not a more correct lens or a wrong lens, but it's a different lens. Let me explain what I mean by that. Through my experience of speaking with players and also just listening to what they have to say, it's obvious to me that footballers value technical ability much more than what the player is really able to do with it over his career. What do I mean by that? I think that professional footballers look at what someone is able to do with a ball at their feet, and that's how they value how good of a player you are. Like, if they see you do things with the ball that are just out of this world, I'm sorry, I don't think they really care too much about whether you're using those skills to win trophies or score 20 goals a season or win awards. I don't really think they look at it like that. They look at you purely through your footballing ability. And this is where the term pure footballer comes from. And I know a lot of modern day fans hate that term and they think it comes from social media. But the reality is, this is a term that's existed for a long, long time, whether it was through pundits, through journalists, and through players. As a footballer, like his pure footballing ability, that's a term that used to be used all the time. And now all of a sudden it's being used almost as a slur, like, oh, what does pure footballer mean? No, how your footballing ability, strip everything away, just how naturally you gifted you are with a ball at your feet. I think professional footballers take that into account a whole lot more than football fans who maybe view the game through a more holistic view in terms of your entire body of work, your mentality, your IQ, all that stuff. I think professional footballers and ex-pros look at how good you are with the ball at your feet and value that much higher than the everyday fan. The second thing that I have clearly understood now, the way footballers view the game, how good you are in a training environment. I think they value that extremely highly. And of course, that's something that as fans, unless you attend training sessions or you watch the training through some camera, I don't know, we'll never be able to understand because we're not there every single day. But how often do you hear footballers talk about other footballers that they've played with? And the phrase they always use is, bro, in training, 1v1, we can't get near this guy. He's on a different level. If you saw what this guy was doing in training, the way he strikes a ball in training, they use the training environment often. And I think that's because it's kind of happening right in front of them. They're seeing it every single day. Every single day. They probably aren't watching every single game of the weekend. It's impossible for them to, because first of all, they're playing during a lot of games. But I think what they see in front of them in training, they value extremely highly. And it's, I mean, you hear the way footballers talk about Steven Gerrard, for example, which is obvious. Steven Gerrard's a much better player than Dembele, right? But oftentimes you hear them talk about Gerrard. Listen to the way England players talk about Gerrard. Oh, in England training, Gerrard is head and shoulders. When we play five-a-side, Gerrard is head and shoulders. The way Gerrard slaps a ball in training, he's head and shoulders above everybody else. They use the training environment and value how good you are in that kind of environment much more than obviously fans do, because again, we don't get to see training. But I urge you really to kind of pay attention when they talk about these players, because oftentimes when they talk about the best players that they've played with, the training environment is really something that they value quite highly. How good are you in those 1v1 kind of situations? How good are you in those kinds of drills? How good are you with the ball at your feet in training? How good are you at 11-a-side in training? Do I want you on my team? How often have you heard, right? Oh, any team that he's on in training, they always win. I've heard that expression so many times. And when I look at a player like Mousa Dembele, who, again, we've just stated, very strong, very difficult to knock off the ball, and very good in tight spaces, I'm sorry, Mousa Dembele sounds like the Lionel Messi of training sessions. That guy is probably the best player in training every single week. Because imagine if you're going up against him every single day in training, and you're against him in midfield. Bro, the guy's bulldozing you off the ball. Imagine trying to get the ball off Mousa Dembele in training. You probably can't sniff the ball off of him. And therefore, I think people look at that, or players that have played with him. I'm going to show you guys a video in a bit. And in their eyes, that's the best player right there. Forget about what he does over the season, but the best footballer. Who's the best footballer? When you strip everything down and just how good they are at the game. Mousa Dembele for these guys must be a different level. Because how do you kind of get him off the ball? Yeah, you can say he doesn't score enough goals, he doesn't create enough chances. But when he has the ball and you're trying to get it off him, how do you get it off him? How? He's too strong for you. He's too fast for you. He's too technical for you. Protects the ball way too good for you. I think they value how good you are in a training environment much more than I think us as fans even kind of take into consideration. And I want to show you guys this video, right? This is from 7 years ago. Spurs players on who the best player on their team is. The results may surprise you. And again, this is around 2018 times when Spurs under Pochettino had been around for 2, 3, 4 years. Dembele was a big part of that team. Listen to who they all say, but more importantly, listen to the reasoning. Listen to the reasoning that they give.
In my opinion, Dembele, I think he's very good. His feet are unbelievable.
He seems to sort of like glide past people.
Yeah,
it isn't like he's running fast. He just
because
sort of
he's so big as well, he just shifts his body so easily. I don't know how he does it.
You see what I'm saying? Listen to the attributes he's kind of stating. Listen to the reasons why he's giving. I'm not saying you have to agree that Dembele is the best player on Spurs. Obviously, Harry Kane was the most valuable player on that team. That guy scores 30 goals a season. He's their best player. But from a footballing, again, because like I told you, what footballers value, from a pure footballing point of view, they view Mousa Dembele as the most talented player on that team. That's really what it comes down to. Who's the most talented player? I saw some people on Twitter saying, there's no way Dembele was the best midfielder. He wasn't even better on that team than Dele Alli. And again, you can look at Dele Alli over season, was contributing more to Spurs, the goals, the match winners, all that stuff. It's all true. 100%. He was winning Young Player of the Year. I completely agree. But even Dele Alli wouldn't say, I'm a better footballer than Mousa Dembele, because of the way they view the word footballer.
Oh, Dembele the best footballer at Spurs?
I'd say so.
Not better than you.
Yeah.
There you go. He says,
If
yeah.
there was somebody I'd pay to watch, it would be Mousa Dembele.
That's exactly what Dele Alli said.
It's unbelievable. Just how he plays the game, he makes it look so easy. He glides past players. You know which way he's going to go as well, which makes it worse, and you just can't tackle him. And I definitely pay to watch.
You know which way he's going to go. You can't stop him. He glides. He's too strong. Again, it's everything I'm kind of saying here. It's always the same way they describe him.
Everyone says that. Every Tottenham teammates I do, everyone says Mousa Dembele.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone will give you a different answer, to be honest. Just, he's sort of a freak of nature. I mean, physically, he's a monster, and he's got ballerina feet at the same time.
Ballerina feet. Physically, he's a monster.
Mousa Dembele for me.
Everyone says that.
Oh my goodness. He probably played against him in midfield every single day of his life, bro. Can you imagine Harry Winks trying to go up against Mousa Dembele? Probably thought he was playing against Yaya Toure, bro. You see what I mean?
What makes him so much better than everyone else?
Just everything. I mean, he's just his sheer power, his pace, his strength, but his technique as well, both feet, and the way he can just, beat any player, facing them up. For me, he's the best.
The best player at Spurs is Mousa Dembele because he glides past players easily in training and in games. You know what he's going to do, but you can't get the ball.
Every Spurs player that we've done this with all say Mousa Dembele.
Yeah, for sure. He's really strong, and his dribbling is very simple, but you can't get the ball.
I mean, there's more examples, right? Like, I'm pretty sure Kyle Walker has said Mousa Dembele on a fair few occasions as well, too, if I find that clip real quick.
Right now, KDB, I put him as the best midfielder that I've seen in the Prem. Like,
Davido, I've said it countless times, Dembele.
You see what I mean, right? Kyle Walker has just said Mousa Dembele was the best midfielder he played with. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne... Okay, even this one, I think he's kind of dragging it here, because Kevin De Bruyne and David Silva, bro, those are peak footballers, man. Honestly, those guys are absolutely peak. Like, you look at them, they're ridiculously talented. But the fact that, again, Kyle Walker, who's played with some of the best players in the world, still values Mousa Dembele's technical ability and his talent level tells you everything you need to know about how differently footballers view the game to us as fans. It's night and day.
Mousa Dembele. He's a scandal. He's a scandal.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why Dembele? I think everyone knows Dembele was good. I don't think there's anyone sitting there going...
No, but it's the respect he gets from the pros.
The only thing that Dembele didn't have was assistant goals.
Yeah.
Everything apart from assistant goals, he was stupid at. Shouldn't have been allowed.
Could he have played in this Man City team?
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
I mean, that's high praise. And then finally, right, another thing that I think professional footballers really value that I don't think you would know unless you actually talked about them, or talked to them rather. And again, you have to believe me here because of my experiences. Professional footballers, I don't think watch as much football as you think they do, which is why I always kind of find it funny when people say like, oh, I want to only listen to ex-pros or footballers talk about the game. And I think when it comes to actually breaking down the specifics of the game, footballers are amazing. But when asking players to talk about other teams and other players throughout a whole season, I don't think they're going to be as good as you think they are. Because unless it's really their job, like Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville, right? Footballers don't watch as much football as you think they do. And it makes sense, right? They have to prepare all week for their own game. Sometimes they're playing at, 3 p.m., which is when there's like 6 other games going on. When they finish their game, they're probably exhausted and they don't feel like watching the game right after, or they're so focused before their game that they're not watching the game before. Footballers don't digest the same amount of football as a regular fan does. It's impossible for them to, man. They have lives. And then when they're done, it's not like the next day they want to go watch more football. They want to spend time with their families. They want to enjoy their day off. So what does matter a lot to them, and it's very evident again, when you hear the way they talk about some players, they value how a player plays against them in particular a lot more than the regular fan does. Their personal experience playing against the player means it completely changes the perception of them in their head. And the thing is, how often do you play a player? You play him maybe twice a season, maybe sometimes even once a season, and over a whole career, you maybe play him 6 times. But if a player is consistently cooking you or cooks you 3 of those 6 times, those 6 times, or those 3 times, excuse me, are really going to stick out in your head. And so when someone asks you about those players, his first thing isn't going to be, oh, how many goals did he score over the 17-18 season? No, it's going to be, how did he play against me that one time? Oh, he cooked me. And therefore, that guy's one of the best players I've ever played against. So Iwobi, for example, said, the best player I played against was Mousa Dembele, bar like Ronaldo and Messi. I'm sure if you go across the Spurs-Arsenal meetings that Iwobi was playing against Spurs in that time, which I would probably hazard a guess is about 2 or 3. I wouldn't say Iwobi played that many times against Mousa Dembele. But I bet if you watch those games back, Mousa Dembele probably had an amazing game against Iwobi. And that's why, in his head, the first person that he thinks about is not, oh, who has the best resume or who has the most personal awards or who won the Ballon d'Or, who came highest in the... No, his first thing is going to be, who had the best game against me? It was probably Mousa Dembele. I fully believe him when he says the best player I played against was probably Mousa Dembele. Because in a one-off game he played against him, he probably ran him ragged, bro. He probably had him on a leash. He did, because again, look at the kind of player he is. Alex Iwobi is never going to say, for example, let me think of a player who I think is better than Mousa Dembele, but wouldn't be the first player you think of when a player says, who's the best player I played against? Let me think. Let's look at Wijnaldum, for example, at Liverpool. I think people would probably say Wijnaldum had a better career than Dembele. He accomplished more in the game. He was more consistent than him, right? I think people would probably argue that. But no one is saying Wijnaldum had a better, like, was a tougher time to play against one-on-one during a game, like your midfield matchup, if you want, than Mousa Dembele. You kind of understand where I'm coming from here. Mousa Dembele is more likely to give you hell over 90 minutes as a defensive matchup or as someone you have to consistently go up against in a midfield battle compared to a Wijnaldum, who had a much better career, but isn't as individually talented a player as Mousa Dembele. If I'm just going to give a quick example, right? A player I spoke to recently still plays in the Premier League. Like as recently as last season was playing in the Premier League. He told me, because we were all talking about best midfielders for each team in Premier League history, and we're saying, look at the players Chelsea have had, look at the players City have had, and we got to Liverpool. And this guy, I promise you, hand on heart, said, oh, you can't forget about Szoboszlai though. I said, Szoboszlai? What? He's been there like 2 years, bro. Like, Szoboszlai? And he said, bro, Szoboszlai is peak. Like, he is so fake. The guy's engine, the amount he runs, the way he presses you, the way he shoots a ball, the way he strikes it, it's ridiculous. He's such a handful to play against. And I said, yeah, Szoboszlai's all right, but he's not even like the best in his position in the league. Like Bruno Fernandes, for example. And he goes, nah, Szoboszlai's way better than Bruno Fernandes. And in my head, I'm thinking, you're chatting shit. Again, Bruno Fernandes is a better player than Szoboszlai for me. Look at what they've accomplished, like how long they've been doing it, his consistency, the number, all of that stuff, right? But I'm willing to bet if I look at the game, I'm not going to say the guy's name, right? Just for privacy. But I'm willing to bet if I look at that team's performance against Bruno over the last few years and how Bruno performed against them, and Szoboszlai over the last 2 years, which is probably like 3 or 4 games, Szoboszlai probably had a much better game against him in that 1v1 matchup than Bruno Fernandes did. That's just the way footballers think. So for all these fans and people on social media saying, is Mousa Dembele like bribing these players? Does he have something against them and that's why they keep gassing him up? Is he blackmailing them? No. I think well and truly, it's a completely different outlook of how they view players. Football fans, I think, view it from a much more holistic point of view. They really look at everything. What's your legacy? What's your how great are you? These guys, when they think of best, they quite literally think, who's better at football? Forget about anything outside of just their footballing ability. And when they look at that, they look at Mousa Dembele and they look at a guy who's strong, fast, agile, tall, protects the ball well, and carries it well as well too. And they look at him as like some kind of alien in midfield. It's not about how long he did it for, how consistent he was. He didn't do it for that long. He wasn't consistent. Like, we all know that. He didn't even start for Belgium half the time. But as a natural footballing talent, they look at him as like a really, really top player. And I think the more you talk to footballers and the more you kind of just, you don't even have to meet them like me, right? You can literally just listen to their interviews. Just listen to the words that they use to describe these players. I'm sorry, it's as simple as that. It's, you know what? Obviously, a much bigger example, right? But these new age fans look at Zidane, for example, and say, oh, Zidane, if you look at his numbers per season, if you look at his stats, he's not scoring every single game. Why is Zidane so highly rated? But then you listen to actually how players talk about Zidane. The best player I played against, Roy Keane, Zidane. I couldn't get near him. He's like a ballerina. He's 6 foot. He's got a nasty side to him. His touch is perfect. You think Roy Keane gives a shit about how many goal contributions Zidane had in the 97-98 season? He couldn't care less. They're looking at it from a pure, natural footballing ability conversation. And I think that's why a lot of these guys look at Dembele and say, yeah, he was peak. Now, that's that conversation out the way. If we kind of try and wrap this up, wrap up the conversation and kind of come to a final point, Mousa Dembele, because I seen recently a podcast put Mousa Dembele in the greatest Arsenal and Spurs combined 11 ever, and he was above like Fabregas and Modric. You're smoking crack. Seriously, get some help. When we're talking about greatness, guys, there's many better Arsenal or greater Arsenal midfielders or Spurs midfielders that contributed more to the game and contributed more to the league and contributed more to their club than Mousa Dembele. That's when we're going overboard, right? But there's probably players that contributed more to the game and contributed more to their club and were greater players, but weren't actually as good at the game as Mousa Dembele. Like, they weren't as good at football as Mousa Dembele was. So there's a balance to be struck here. Is Mousa Dembele the best midfielder in Premier League history, like I've heard some people say? He's so far away from it. Is he in a top 5 greatest Spurs midfielders? I wouldn't even say that. No, he isn't. But let's also not go in the complete other extreme here now and pretend that Mousa Dembele was some bang average footballer and all these players don't know what they're talking about. As always, the truth lies somewhere in the middle, but you have to hear out both sides because there is truth on either end. But I think you just have to be willing to listen to it. So that's my 2 cents on the conversation. I found it really interesting as someone who's blessed enough to kind of work in the industry the way I do, but also still have an ear in the social media kind of scene. I see how people are speaking. I see the conversations happening. I think this is just my 2 cents. Take it how you will. Agree if you do. If you disagree, that's the game, man. It's a game of opinion. So like, share, subscribe. As you can see, I'm back in my studio, right? I have one more show of The Zone. Actually, I have a few more shows of The Zone, but I won't be as occupied with that going forward. Club World Cup's coming to an end. And the videos in this channel will be coming back to consistent scheduling and consistent videos very, very soon. So like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace.